But what are connected vehicles? Well, this presentation will examine data transfers and the cybersecurity challenges related to connected vehicles. Can I welcome onto the stage Arild Tjomsland, Special Advisor at the University of Southeastern Norway, and Tor Enstay, Vice President, Risk Management and Threat Intelligence at Telenor Group. You're both very welcome to the stage. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, nice to see you. Did you have a nice lunch? Thank you for inviting us here. We have hacked a Chinese electric car. So we are really into talking to you about our small project. This is Arild.
Yes, thank you, Tor. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Arild Tjomsland. I'm a special advisor at the University of Southeast Norway. I work with technology transfer. For us, this project has been a side project which has blown up exceeding all expectations. So present it to...
Yeah, I'm Tor Enstay. I am head of risk management and threat intelligence for the Telenor Group. So my passion is to understand societal risk on how we can understand technology seen from the society, Arild. This is so exciting. We have some slides here.
There we go.
Yeah, so for 2.5 years ago, I bought myself a Chinese car to see what kind of data is it leaking from me. Because there has been a lot of rumors in the security community that we should be afraid of Chinese equipment, you know, and stuff like that. So I thought that let's go for it. Let's see what this car leaks. So we started building up a rig inside the car to tap into every single byte the car is communicating. So any data that goes in and out of the car is recorded on this, half homemade equipment and stored into a large hard drive. This equipment is very similar to how forensics experts work today. So it's the same structure. So any communication to and from the car will be recorded, Arild.
And your choice of car, Tor, was a very good choice. It's a Chinese SUV called NIO ES8. And as you see up on the left-hand side for you guys, it's the most prevalent taxi in Oslo at the moment. 277 taxis like that, and it's also in use for a self-driving project in Oslo. So it's a very common sight in the center of Oslo.
But the Chinese cars are it's not very good documented. So we have actually been doing some open source intelligence, looking at US patents to find out more about the equipment. So that has been an important source for our project as well.
Yeah. So let's get into the star of our project, this car.
So when I bought this car, I thought, well, it's maybe a computer in there. I can look into it. Not the problem. I'm a techie. But then I started digging. And, you know, in modern connected car, there's been 200 and 300 computers. 200 and 300 computers. So this was like massively interesting and challenging, Arild. I wasn't really expecting, you know, for some years ago, when you were turning on the main headlight of your car, there was a switch and there was a battery, a cable, and a light. Now it's a complete computer system, just to turn off your, main lights, Arild.
Yep.
So it really is. People say to me, well, a connected car is a data center on wheel. Yes, it is a data center on wheel. It's massively So what do you think about this, Arild?
Well, it's more like a fog of data, right? Because many of these components have their own processor unit, right? So they're talking to the main processing unit in the car via the Wi-Fi that the car produces. Why do they do it like that? Well, because in this way they don't have to have wiring. So in the old days, you might have 15 kilometers of wiring in a car. These days, they're working their way down to 0. Of course, not yet, but that's the way it's going.
Yeah, and when we're going to tap data for a car, we need to know its interface. What kind of communication is it going in and out? So I thought, well, it's probably a mobile phone SIM card, and it's probably Wi-Fi. But then I started digging, and there's a huge loads of interfaces actually communicating too. That was also quite interesting. Did you know that when you are speed charging your electric car, it's actually communicating heavily with the charging station? Fun fact: if you watch some YouTube videos, you can actually charge your charging bill on the neighboring car because there is a security flaw. Think about that. So, but also we looked into the GPS system, communication there. It has radio receivers on various frequencies. It has, Bluetooth, NFC card. So the tapping exercise I thought was going to be easy is not really that easy.
Yeah, and a fun fact as well is that we talk about connected cars, and they are very connected, but they're also quite disconnected. They're disconnected from the driver. Because of technology like drive-by-wire and steer-by-wire, the car can, in practice, drive by itself. Steer-by-wire, for example, is not a function of TU's car, but the sister model, where the steering wheel is not mechanically connected at all to the wheels anymore. So we talk about the connectedness, but there's also a disconnect there, making, for example, a car completely useless if the software doesn't work. And also, of course, there's the drive towards autonomy, which mandates cameras all over, driver assistance functionality, cameras, radars, sensors of all kinds. And?
Yeah, and also, one thing is the complexity about the car and all these computers, but also the number of cloud services that is around this car is also, amazingly complex. So here is one example where you see all the servers that's behind this and all the operators, many sitting in China with access directly to your car. So the discussion that we have today from chip level to politics, yeah, we have an issue to work on here, right?
Yeah, there are actually lots of issues here. There's the whole issue of data collection for different purposes. There's the whole issue of personal security. But we've dived into national security. That's where our interests were. But of course, this is a project that was a side project, and it should have been a main project, and it will be, we hope. So, one thing that makes Norway unique is the amount of electric vehicles, right? At the moment, there are an equal amount of electric and gasoline-powered cars, or petrol-powered cars in Norway. At the moment, 90+% of new car sales are electric cars. 30% of those are at the moment Chinese-made. So that's a revolution. Like 5, 6, 7 years ago, the Chinese were not building any cars at all, and now they are grabbing an extreme amount of the Norwegian market, at least. Also, just to mention it, it's not just a case of cars. We have buses in Norway. The entire bus selection or portfolio of Oslo is electric. And we have, at the moment, 790 more electric buses from China on the way to Norway. So we have gone all in, to put it that way. There are main benefits, of course, are reduced emissions and traffic safety. The price is also an issue, right? Because these are it's impossible to compete with the Chinese products in this market, price-wise. But there are challenges, the extreme complexity, and also, which we'll come back to, over-the-air software updates. Extreme important part of this. So what's this?
Yeah, so we really needed to isolate. It's called the lion cage. So we thought about we need to isolate the car. Should we wrap the entire car into tin foil to monitoring heavily? But that's quite, you need a lot of tin foil to wrap an entire Chinese car. So we were able to borrow a mine. So we actually drove the car into a mine to isolate it to see, is it really what is happening when it's not communicating? What kind of mobile devices have we not seen, right? To be able to see absolutely everything. And then it just exploded in the media. So now we have been around in newspapers, I think, 30 articles around the world, and it's fun, actually.
Yeah, it's become all-consuming. So what did we find?
Yeah, it is really chatty. When you park your car in the evening, turn it off and you go and you have dinner, you might think that the car is turned off. It's not. It's chatting all the time. It's exchanging data. It's almost no difference when you drive in a car and when you're parking. And that, to me, was a surprise. right? And it's a lot of work. We're doing this as a side project. So we are, you know, somebody likes knitting, we like to dig into data. So this is what we do at the evening. We dive into to see what kind of data is actually exchanged. So now you're probably super curious, where does all this data go? And
Ta-da!
China. Surprise? Maybe not. 90% of the data packages is going to China. So we have pinpoint the exact location. So if you are, you know, familiar with Beijing, you can have a side project on finding the data center and sending us some pictures. That could be super fun. What also quite interesting, when you see on all the on the right side here is all the sites that the car is communicating to. And that is also quite interesting, because here you see the biggest tech companies, Chinese tech companies, it's really intensely talking to. And some of them have been some dodgy experiences with, you know, putting unknown software in your mobile phone and stuff like that. So it's but also the combination of state and private company is really seen in this link, Arild. How excellent is this?
I don't see why we did all this work, Tor. Oh. We could have just checked out the terms and conditions in your car.
Oh, no.
You accept them every morning.
No!
When Tor's car has a software update, it asks if he accepts it in the morning on his screen. Like four screens down, you get to the end where the recipients are listed. So the car is sending data to experts inside and outside the EU, in parentheses, China.
Okay, so who of you have bought a car without, you know, approving, checking the, you know, accepting the terms and conditions, right?
There's one.
Oh, good.
So, Tor, what would happen if you didn't accept? I mean, the software dictates how the car behaves.
We probably should test that, but I would assume that also some liability challenges, because I need to accept that the car is getting safer with new software updates, I will assume.
Yeah, probably. So what's this?
Yeah, interesting finding. You know, a GPS system in Europe, in the States, and also the Russian, they are sending, from the satellites, they're sending down data to your GPS device, right? But the Chinese, they have a two-way communication. So they're sending up data from their GPS devices to the satellites. And this was really interesting. So this was where we actually, in the mine, we found communication on the same frequencies that the uplink to the Chinese GPS satellites were. So this was a really interesting challenge, and this will be a challenge going forward to be able to understand what are we leaking directly to satellites.
Or is the car completely self-reliant? It doesn't rely on any Western technology necessarily for updates or for whatever.
Good point.
Yep. So what's this then? Yeah.
So aside from looking at leakages, we had to do some hacking, right? So we were able to hack sub-providers for these over-the-air updates. And this was fairly interesting. And we were able to get access to 116 million devices over the entire world. So meaning we can actually go directly into remotely controlling 116 million devices around the world. Not that many in Norway, just 80,000 devices. So, but think about that challenge. It's bad.
So this is a software update platform that's used by, among other companies, car companies, BYD, Maxus, Jack, Geely. So there are lots of different components and lots of different brands that use the same platform update system. And they have a very low degree of security, in our opinion. We only needed 3 or 4 days to be able to hack into and get root level access to the firmware of the cars. So we could have turned off cars by ourselves.
1.6 petabyte of data.
So, one more hack. Yep. You knew it. The cameras are one of those components that have their own processors. So that's a third-party component, in this case used by a Volvo, Swedish brand, not a Swedish car. but it has components it has cameras that have their own processing unit. You see on the exploded picture there, they grab their own software updates without consulting the car, if you will. And of course, we managed to hack into that because we were interested in seeing if there was like a system that aggregates the pictures from these cars. So we found that system. It's called the CFAR Big Data System. And we were interested in Norway, of course, because we're Norwegians. Lo and behold, this camera component is in use in many different products, and they aggregate the pictures in a user interface with a map.
So live feed from 2,900 cameras just from Norway. How beautiful is that?
Excellent. So we were able to look into forests and the cabins, and in this case, one camera on the counter of a shop from this user interface. We told, as we do white hat hacking, we informed the Chinese companies of these hacks, and were invited to China immediately. But we haven't gone. So the problem with this is that it is an example of an embedded reserved interface, which is the same concept that broke down Huawei many years ago. The whole discussion around that is that they build in backdoors in their components. And with the amount of cars and the complexity, no one is checking out what these cars are able to do. Yeah, so what are they able to do? Well, we can stop a car, much like John Deere stopped their tractors when they were stolen from Ukraine and brought to Russia. How could that be used? Well, a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, Zelensky was on a secret visit to Oslo. No one knew about it before he suddenly popped up. In that case, the traffic around in Oslo had to be altered to make him arrive in secrecy, right? So if you aggregate the data from positioning of all the cars, all the taxis in Oslo on a regular day, then you will be able to see the difference on a day where something big is going to happen, right? So AI could flag that, wow, something's going to happen in Oslo. So if China were to be humiliated by maybe a peace prize or something like that, which we've done before in Norway, then they could possibly stop all the traffic or just slow down some of the traffic or just make it impossible to get from the airport to the ceremony in the middle of town. That's one of those typical scenarios you could pull up. But of course, you don't have to do anything. If they just know that you have this capability, then it could be used as leverage. So that's one of our scenarios. Another pretty bad one is using those cameras, of course, to in conjunction with each other as a network, as a surveillance network. We are told in Norway by our intelligence services that we should be wary of visitors from China with a laptop and a cell phone. But each one of the 77,000 cars made in China has a lot more capability than one person. And we have that many on our roads, concentrated in the big cities. So who would be the target? Most likely it would be a question of surveilling Chinese citizens in our country. So it wouldn't be a problem for the person owning the car. Just so a Norwegian can just drive around in his big, nice car while being part of the intelligence value chain.
After this talk, Arild will be followed as well, so be aware of that.
Yeah. But of course, also employees at subcontractors for the defense industry in Norway is a possible target for this kind of surveillance. So this car parked outside our main defense industry company would be able to pick up every single license plate driving in and out of the thereby you could deduce which companies are delivering goods, their software, whatever, to that company. So, all right. This is your thing.
Yeah. So we've talked about today, we have from chip level discussion up to political level. How can we understand all this chaos, right? This is complex ecosystem. This is the method that we have used to assess the risk or the capabilities as seen from a societal perspective. So what we see here is the red area. Somebody would like to do something negative towards us, right? This is affecting vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities can be technical vulnerabilities, it can be human vulnerabilities, it can be organizational vulnerabilities, it can be process-based vulnerabilities, and that leads to risk, right? So that is the discussion that we have with you today, because this needs to be managed. And one way of doing it is regulation, right? Another way of doing it is actually it's funding money into innovation to actually make businesses to do something about this. Should somebody be making this monitoring system instead of some hobby people from Norway? So we have used all this methodology to be able to understand the risk level, but we have actually gone a bit further, because the discussion today, if you have an integrated complex ecosystem, it's not necessarily just to throw out Chinese products, because they are embedded in everything. But you need to understand the balance of capabilities. So if you take next slide, what we have done here, looking at offensive capabilities versus defensive capabilities. What kind of capabilities do we have in the Norwegian society with the defenses, the security authority? What do we have in Norway compared to what will we get of offensive capabilities with all these Chinese cars? What does that mean from a societal perspective? What is the balance? Who will win? Not Norwegians, right? So the power balance here is really interesting. I'm happy to go into this. I have tons of slides on this. So what you see here is China is in the red, and also the Norway is in the blue. So the balance on the ecosystem when it comes to capabilities to manage or mitigate is what is my message to you. So please do something about this. All right, Ariel.
Yeah. So we actually usually talk a couple of hours about this, because it's an incredibly deep topic. So I hope that if this interests you in some way, we do hope it does. And we also hope we now sort of woke you up a little bit after lunch. So please make contact with us on this topic. Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.